You see someone struggling, and your first thought is, what did they do wrong? A friend gets laid off, and you immediately wonder if they were underperforming. Someone gets sick, and you scan their lifestyle for the cause. You need to believe they did something to deserve it. Because if bad things happen to good people for no reason, then bad things could happen to you for no reason. And your brain refuses to accept that. This isn't you being judgmental. This is your brain protecting itself from existential terror. You've probably caught yourself doing this and felt guilty. You know it's unfair to blame victims. You know life isn't fair. But the moment something bad happens to someone, your mind starts building a case for why it makes sense. They must have made a mistake. They must have ignored warning signs. They must deserve this somehow, because the alternative is too scary. The alternative is that you could do everything right and still lose everything. Your brain would rather blame strangers than face that truth. This is called the just world hypothesis. Research shows over 80% of people demonstrate this bias when evaluating others' misfortunes. Your brain evolved to find patterns and assign causes. Random suffering breaks the pattern. It suggests the universe is chaotic and your efforts mean nothing. So your mind invents reasons. It creates justice where none exists. Your ancestors who believed actions led to predictable outcomes survived better than those paralyzed by uncertainty. Your brain inherited a worldview that says good behavior leads to good outcomes and bad behavior leads to bad outcomes. Your brain thinks it's finding truth, but it's actually creating comfortable lies to avoid facing randomness. Here's how this plays out without you realizing it. Someone shares they're dealing with chronic pain. Your brain immediately searches for what caused it. Did they exercise wrong? Eat poorly? Ignore symptoms too long? You're not trying to be cruel. You're trying to regain control. Because if you can identify their mistake, you can avoid making it yourself. So you ask questions that sound helpful but are really blame disguised as concern. You suggest they try yoga or change their diet. Not because you think it will help, because you need to believe their pain has a preventable cause. If it's just random bad luck, then you're vulnerable too. Or you hear about someone's business failing. Your mind doesn't consider market conditions or timing or luck. It jumps straight to what they did wrong. Poor planning, bad decisions, lack of hustle. You build an entire narrative around their failure being earned, because successful businesses make sense in a just world. Failed businesses must be the result of failure. This lets you believe your own success is deserved and your future success is controllable. You're not analyzing their situation. You're protecting your worldview from the reality that effort doesn't guarantee outcomes. Research shows this happens an average of 23 times per day. The bias doesn't just make you judgmental, it creates a cascade where you distance yourself from suffering. You blame the victim. This makes you feel safer, which makes you less empathetic, which makes you blame them harder to justify your lack of empathy, which increases the distance. You're not helping people who struggle because you've convinced yourself they created their struggle, so helping them would be enabling their bad choices. You've built a complete moral framework that protects you from randomness while making you cold to real suffering. The more unfair their situation actually is, the harder you work to prove it's fair. Because admitting unfairness means admitting vulnerability. And no, you're not overthinking this. It really is that complex. Most people think this is about being optimistic or believing in karma, so they defend the bias as keeping them positive or motivated. But that's like defending a map that shows your destination is closer than it is because it makes you feel good. The real issue isn't whether you stay hopeful. It's that you're replacing reality with fantasy. Bad things happen to good people constantly. Effort doesn't guarantee success. Virtue doesn't prevent suffering. Denying this doesn't protect you. It just makes you blame people who need help and feel false security about your own safety. This bias survives because randomness is terrifying and control is comforting. Plus, admitting the world is unjust feels like admitting your achievements might be partly luck. And if you stopped believing in a just world, you'd have to sit with the fear that your life could fall apart despite your best efforts. You'd have to accept that some suffering is meaningless. that some people lose through no fault of their own. Your brain would rather blame victims than face the void of cosmic indifference. This is the part that changes everything. You're not seeing a just world. You're creating a just world by retrofitting explanations onto random events. Someone suffers, and you invent their sin. Someone succeeds, and you credit their virtue. The universe doesn't operate on fairness. Your brain does. And your brain is so committed to this story that it will distort reality, blame victims, and ignore evidence just to maintain the illusion of justice. You're not discovering why bad things happen. You're deciding why bad things happen. And that decision always protects your sense of control while punishing those who already lost. The moment you see this as creation instead of discovery, everything shifts. You're not being logical. You're being defensive. And the cost of your defense is empathy for people whose only crime was bad luck. So the next time you hear about someone's misfortune and your brain immediately searches for what they did wrong, you'll know what's really happening. Your mind is protecting itself from randomness by inventing reasons. But now you can catch it. You can notice the blame creeping in. You can ask if you're actually analyzing their situation or just defending your worldview. That pause is everything. You're not trying to eliminate the bias. You're just recognizing when your need for a just world is overriding your ability to see injustice clearly. You started this video believing bad things happen for reasons. Now you know your brain invents those reasons to avoid facing how random and unfair life actually is. That's not a small shift. That's understanding why you blame people who don't deserve it. Understanding this bias is just the beginning. There's another one that's even more powerful, and most people never see it coming. Watch this next video to learn the bias that's even more dangerous than this one.